Hi friends, it's Becky and I have a really quick bead weaving tutorial for you today. I'm going to be using some of the beads from my December 2-hole bead subscription from Adornable Elements, Beads of the Month Clubs. I've got some of these dark pastel coral candy beads. They're 8mm beads and they have 2 holes in the sides right there. I've also got some Tinos Parpuca in this pastel amber color. And so those are the ones for my 2-hole bead selection that I'm going to be making with. And then I'm using 2 different colors of the seed beads for my seed bead selection. This one is transparent dark emerald. And I'm using this color because it's Christmas Day and I want Christmas colors. You could change this design and make it more universally wearable by omitting the green beads and just using some of these nickel-plated AB seed beads instead for all of this design. But because, again, as said, it is Christmas Day and I'm feeling Christmassy, I'm going to use the green ones. I have threaded a size 11 English style beading needle with some 8-pound fireline, and I'm using 8-pound because it's going to show it better on the camera for you. 6-pound would work just as well, or any thread that you trust to hold a bracelet, because I'm making a bracelet. So I'm going to pick up, first of all, one of my 11O seed beads. This is my color A. Once more, you can substitute your color A with your color B or a totally different color. You want to move it down near the end of your thread, but not quite near the end. Leave yourself about 9 to 10 inches of thread at the end because we're going to be using that thread to finish the closure. Now this bead is going to be part of the design, so use your color A seed bead and not a stop bead. I'm just going back through that bead once just to keep it holding in place where it's at. And then I'm going to go through one of the holes in my candy bead. I always check my 2-hole beads before I string it on by just putting my needle through both holes to make sure that both holes are clear, because sometimes you'll go through and just do one side, and then when it comes time to go through the second hole, you may find that that second hole isn't even there. So always check. That's just something I do when I do those. Now it didn't matter which hole I went through for this candy bead because we'll just be going through the second hole again the other time. The candy beads have a flat side and a more domed side, so it is something that you'll want to pay attention to as we go. But for this first one, it doesn't matter which one. So I'm going to now pick up 3 more of my color A beads and go through the second hole of this candy bead so that these 3 beads are sitting right there along the top. I'm going to pick up 2 more of my color A beads and I'm going to go through that first bead that I put my thread into, like that. So I'll have my candy bead with 3 beads along the top and 3 beads along the bottom. Now, these are Toho seed beads, so if you're using different seed beads like Matubo, they might be a little bit bigger than these are, or longer. I think Miyuki are also about the same size as the Tohos. So your numbers that you pick up here, if you're using different beads, may be different numbers. But I'm going to pick up 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of my color A beads. So I'm coming out of these 3 beads down here. I'm going to sew through all 3 of these seed beads along the top after picking up my 8 11Os. And that's going to be half of my little ring. I'm going to pick up another 8 11Os. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And go through these 3 seed beads down here another time. And I want to reinforce this, so I'm going to go through all of these seed beads one more time, all the way around. See how it's a little loose? Going through it again will reinforce it. Did I mention how much thread to do? I probably didn't. I pulled off a wingspan, and you will have to add thread as you go, at least once. So a wingspan is generally easier to handle than, 2 wingspans or something like that. Because if you have too much thread, it starts to get a little bit, it'll get knotted, it'll get tangled. All right, now what I want to do is I want to move from this end where I had the original 3 beads over here to this end. So I'm just going to keep moving up until I get up there. I'm going to scooch in a little bit closer to show you how you can tell where you want to come out. Because, is this too close? Maybe, I don't know. I want to come out of the 3rd seed bead here. So I've got 1 seed bead with some thread attached right there. And I want to come out of this 2nd one where the thread is attached to it. So I want to come out of this one right here. That's the one that I want to be coming out of. So I'm going to go ahead and sew through these 4 seed beads between my thread and the one that I'm coming out of, and come all the way out, so that I'm coming right there out of those first 3 that I added after I went through the first hole on my candy bead. Like that. That's very, very big. All right, I'm gonna scooch back just a little bit because we don't need that much detail for the whole thing. I just wanted to show you how you can find that out. And if it's a little bit difficult to see, you can kind of stick your needle in there and kind of wiggle it in order to figure out find that thread bridge, and then figure out which bead that's coming out of when you're looking at it, because it can be difficult to see, but that should help. So now that I'm coming out of that one, and again, I'm leaving the tail because we're going to come back after we finish this for the rest of it. We're going to start going through our T-nose. And you could have your T-nose pointed any way that you want, going this way, or with the flat sides together, or the long sides together. I like the way that they look on this bracelet with the short sides together, because it'll look like a little bit of a bow, and that feels festive to me. So I'm going to pick up one of my nickel-plated AB 11-Os. This is color B, and it doesn't matter which hole I go through on my T-nose. Once more, I'm checking both holes. I'm going to go ahead and go through that one because it'll rotate. It'll rotate around. That's why it doesn't matter which one I go through. But I want to go through the long side towards the short side. Pick up another one of my color B 11-Os. I'm going to go through the short side once again, check both holes of my second T-no. There you go. See, they rotate. So it does not matter which hole, it just matters which side. So, see, kind of like a little bow. And then I'm going to pick up another one of my color B 11-Os, 3 of my color A 11-Os, and then one more of my color B 11-Os. And go into the second hole on my second Tino. Like that. I'm going to pick up another color B, 11, go through the second hole of my first Tino, like that. This is easier if I'm holding it in my hands, but it's harder for you to see. So I'm trying to do that with y'all in mind. And then pick up another of my color B11s. And since I'm coming out of this bead here, I want to go into or sew into 1, 2, 3, the third bead from that group. And then go through all 3 of those like that. These are the 3 beads that we added after we went through the first hole on that candy bead, the same 3 beads. So we're adding that there. And I'm going to reinforce this. I'm going to sew through all of these beads one more time. Go up through my 11-Os, both of the Tinos, these 11-Os across the top, all 3 of those color A ones, and then these 11-O color B 11-Os, the Tinos coming out that side, and then I'm going to go through these 3 11-Os one more time. Now I need to move my thread so that it's coming out of this bead here. So I'm going to go back up through all of these 11-Os. You might have to do it just a couple at a time if you can't line it up to get all of the beads on the needle. And I'm just going to go into this first color A 11-O so that I'm coming right out of it. And now I'm going to pick up another candy bead. Now this is where I want to make sure that I'm going through the right side and which hole it is. If you flip it over and you can see the flat side, that's the wrong side. Make sure it matches what we've got here. And I'm coming out of the 11-O here on the, if this is the top and this is the bottom, on the top. So if I turn this so that those holes are facing it, I'm going to want to go through the corresponding hole on my candy bead so that when this is in place, it's facing the same direction as this one over here. And then I'm going to add 1, 2, 3 of my color A 11-Os. I'm going to go through these 3 11-Os here. Then I'm going to add 8 of my color A 11-Os on one side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Go through these 3 seed beads. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and go through these 3 seed beads. And then I'm going to do the same thing that I did with the first candy bead, and I'm going to go through all of these little halo beads, the halo that it makes, or the wreath. One more time. Let's go through all of these beads to reinforce it. And then after you've reinforced it by going through one more time, I'm going to go ahead and move my needle and thread so that I'm coming out of that third bead up along the top. The one that I showed you how to find. Let's go ahead and do that one more time for reinforcement of what we're learning's sake. I'm going to scooch in so we can see it's sometimes easier to see the threads from the back side than from the rounded side, from this flat side here. So let's keep going. Keep sewing up. Just keep sewing. Just keep sewing. All right, and so here's the thread going into this one. And if I move these beads just a little bit, I can see the thread going into this one right here. See that thread? So, where's my thread coming out? There it is. So I'm going to go through until I'm coming out of that same bead. Not that one. Because that's the one that I want to come out of. Right there. And now I'm going to add another bow section, just like I did with this one. And after I add that bow section, we'll add another one of these. And we'll just keep repeating that until we have a bracelet that is long enough to go around your wrist almost. Now I have 8 candy peats here and 7 bow sections, and this will fit my 7.5-inch wrist just about perfectly once I add my button and loop closure. If you want it to be a little bit longer, you could always add a button after one of these, like add maybe that to each end and then do a button closure, or do the full thing on both sides to make it longer, or just omit a couple of these if you want it to be shorter. So there are several places that you can stop as you do this. All right, so I am again coming out of that third bead right here, and I am going to attach, let me make sure I have the right needle on here. I'm going to attach my button first. So I'm going to pick up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of my color bee buttons, or beads. Oh, actually, no, let's do 1, 2, 3, and then go through this. There we go. The shank isn't wide enough to pass beads through, so I'm just doing that. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then let's do 1, 2, 3, 4 on the other side. And then I'm going to go through these 3 11-ohs here one more time, so that I have a little loop. And I'm going to reinforce this probably a couple of times. Just go through all of these seed beads. And I mean all of those seed beads twice and one more time. I mean, twice should do it, especially with the 8-pound fire line that I'm using, but you know, as long as I can still fit the needle and the thread through these beads, I'm fine with doing it this way. All right, now. All right, yep, that's getting to be about the limit of how much thread I can fit through these beads. I'm going to travel my thread back down around through here. And go back through here. I'm just moving away from where the closure is so that I can tie off my thread. under this thread bridge and just do a half hitch knot. Oop. Then move down here. And do another half hitch knot. Wait, where am I going? There. It flipped around on me. There we go. Around that thread bridge. I'm going through these three just to move the end of my thread away from my knot a little ways. And now I'm going to burn it off. And I'm going to scooch myself down to the end where I had left myself that tail of thread and get this needle onto it. Get it threaded. I'm just doing that little trick where you sort of flatten out your, this works best on thermally bonded thread, by the way. You flatten it out so that it's a little bit easier to needle your thread. Oop. A little bit easier, but not totally easier. Sorry, friends, I should have threaded this before I started recording. Or maybe it will be helpful for folks to see that sometimes you gotta struggle a little bit for your art. Okay. Now I'm going to want to make a loop here. This is coming out of one of these. Wait, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Okay, 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3 here. 4, 5, 6, 7. I'm just going to go through these 3 11-ohs here one time. Okay, and then through these 3 and 4. So this 4th one I'm going to come out of, this is what I'm going to build my loop with. And I want my loop to be large enough to go around this button, but not so large that it will slip off of there when I do it. Move these out of the way. So I'm going to start with, let's start with about 15 of these now. 18. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. So, and this button, by the way, this came in the Findings add-on bag for my subscription. Now before I sew back down through my work to tighten it to reinforce it, I'm just going to make this loop, just pinch that with my fingers to see if this will fit over my button, and it does not. I need to add some more beads. I'm going to add 4 more beads. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think that's 22. Probably will be adding more, but I like to add just a few at a time. And then you can always take beads off if you've added too many, as long as you don't go back through and do the reinforcing first. I mean, you can always do it afterwards too, but it's a little more complicated. And I feel like this is going to be just about the right amount of beads. Let me get that closer together. Make sure that that's going to fit. Yep. Okay, so 22 it is for this specific button. Buttons are different. Okay, so I came out of this bead here. So I'm going to go back through that same bead, going in the same direction. Like that. Back through here. So I'm making a big X going through this bead as my linchpin. Back through these 3 beads here. I'm going to go through another time for reinforcing. Up through these 3 to that 4th one. Around my loop. Back through all of those beads, including that middle one. And back down through these 3 beads. And then I'm going to work my way around this circle, tie off a little knot, just like I did the other one. I may run out of thread a little sooner, but that's fine. It's totally fine. Oh, that thread got caught on the beads. Good place for a half hitch knot. Down through here. Let's do another one here. I'm almost out of thread. Oop. There we go. And I normally like to burn it away from the knot, but since I am out of thread, we'll go ahead and burn it here. All right. And here we have a cute little holiday bracelet. It doesn't take very long to work up. Tell me I didn't misjudge my loops. Well, I did. I'm going to add 2 more beads to this. but I'm going to do that off camera. Anyway. Sometimes that just happens. No, there it goes. It went on. Perfect. So here you go. Merry Christmas. And I hope you are having a fantastic holiday time. And I will put a link to Adornable Elements where I got both my 2-hole beads and my seed bead subscriptions from. And like I said, you can substitute this little halo beads, this color A, with a different color if you don't want something that's super Christmassy. And I think it would look great with maybe some dark brown beads, or just these beads again, or maybe some white beads, or maybe some gold lined beads, something like that. That would look really great. Just burn it off this little piece of thread. I think that was from either where I added thread or some other way. All right. There we go. Happy beading.